Today's show, you will learn about what resources and strategies needed to pass the Auto Glass Safety Council certification test. The standard, Bob's textbook. These are a few of the ways that you will be able to use these resources and strategies that we teach you today to study for and pass the certification test. So please sit back, relax, put on your thinking caps, and enjoy the show. Warning, this program features viewpoints of our host, our guest. They're their own viewpoints. These viewpoints may not represent other hosts, other guests, individuals, or their employers. So please enjoy the show. This is our first, like an AI recording. Good morning, everyone. This is James, the Ghost Set Killer, Put 'em on the Glass podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about passing the Auto Glass Safety Council technician test. And my guest today is the expert in that field. Who is my guest today?
Jeff Olive here.
Oh, Jeff
AGSC
Olive.
Training and Quality.
Training and quality. All right, so we want as many people to take and pass this test. So we're going to dive into the meat of it. What are some of the study references they could use to pass this test, the best that they have there at their disposal?
All right, so we've got Bob Aronik's book was just updated last month. That became available on Amazon. So that is available out there. Also, if you look on the NHTSA website, you can make yourself familiar with any of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards that are covered for the auto glass industry, amongst a number of other references that you can find.
Okay. Some of those other references that I would like to, touch on is you can always do the schooling. There are many out there. There's online programs. There is the in-person programs with like the Auto Glass University, with the Kaizen, with Auto Glass Tech Institute, the Auto Glass Academy. There's many out there. The only thing that I highly recommend is make sure that they have the appropriate study material, whether they're accredited training program with the AGSC or not. Accredited is probably a good way to lean because
I would say so.
I would say so because they have to pass that little bit of that accreditation, meaning that they're going to cover everything that you need to know to pass the test and get the proper training. Bob's book's a good one. I have the first copy. I'm waiting on my second edition to get here. So, but I'm getting an autographed copy like I did the first time. So
I signed up for that too. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, right. So, but also you could one good reference that I like to use is the standard, the 005-2022, the latest edition, or the latest rendition of the standard. I like to have that, as a resource for myself to study for these. I'll brush up on all this stuff when it's time to take my master's. Luckily, I just took it, so I got 3 years before I got to take it again.
Yeah, one other thing on those accredited training courses, most of them offer the testing included in their pricing. So if you go with Auto Glass University, Kaizen, Auto Glass Technical Institute, any of those, they will go ahead and put you through their course, and then they will have a free testing for the certification. So once you complete it, you can go ahead and take the test and you'll be all set. Also, some of them will cater, whether they'll go off their normal training and to train to whatever you request. Like Kaizen, for instance, I believe does that. And also, Don's Mobile Glass Training also does that. So you call them up. You tell them you want to train CSRs, they'll train you CSRs. You want to train on a wire tool only, or you want to train on ADAS only, they can take care of that for you.
And that's a good thing. I know. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we also offer, training at the AGSC where we do, you can sign up for training with our, what is it now? We have online training videos that we're coming up with. We have a program that's going to be on our website pretty soon that's going to be updated. We also uh, offer training. We offer member training and regional training. And then we have the training that's coming up we got some training coming up in San Antonio on May 7th, where we train specifically so you can learn everything you need to know to pass the certification exam.
Yeah, those are called your boot camps, right?
Yep.
If someone does an online search, they can search the Auto Glass Safety Council boot camps, and that'll come up. The boot camps will come up. You'll see where you can go to get the in person, and I'll be having an interview later with my wife because she sat through one of those boot camps back in Virginia Beach that Bob Baronic taught, and she was able to take and pass both of her tests. She did the one that Corey taught and for the repair, and then she did the one for the technician one. So they're very informative. I mean, you're going to get everything you need to sit down, but I recommend taking notes. Like right now, pause this video, get you a notepad, and write down all these things we're saying because you can use these as study material to go back and, for when you're ready to take the test. The boot camps, I like you said Don's Mobile Glass because that's Frog It Out. That's Jacques, and he's also the president of the Auto Glass Safety Council. You guys have kind of catered this new, I won't say new, but it's definitely an updated version of the boot camps. I got to see one out in California, and it's very informative. And if you can take a boot camp, that's probably, besides taking one of the courses that get you ready directly specifically for it, that's probably the easiest and fastest track to become a certified technician because it's free, right?
Yeah, it's free to anyone who pre-registers. If you don't
Yes.
pre-register and you sign up on site, it is free to members, but there is a $25 fee for non-members if they sign up on site. So it's best to, sign up in advance, take the testing for free. You've got 6 months to take the testing, and you get 3 chances to pass. So if you go through it the first time, you got a second and a third chance to get complete and, get a passing score.
Mm.
Um, Once you go ahead and sign up for the test, you've got a pre-test that's available in there. You've got more videos. A lot of Bob stuff is in there. And, that compiled with the boot camp, you got a pretty good chance of passing on your first round.
You got a pretty good chance of passing on your first go. And if you're a great note taker in the boot camp, you've got a pretty good chance. Before we move on, let's re-hit on this. It is free if you pre-register. Reason for pre-registering is so that the AGSC gets a count of how many people they potentially will have in this so they can organize all the events around it. Please come out and sign up on site. If you're a member, you can get right in. If not, you have to pay the $25. $25 is pretty much just let's get more tables in here. Let's get more chairs in here. Let's organize this a little bit different. So that if you wait till on site and you're not a member, I recommend becoming a member of the Auto Glass Safety Council. Not only, do you have all these, benefits to it, but also you have these trainings available and there's more training coming out on the website online all the time that the Auto Glass Safety Council is providing. So let's dive into the meat of this test, man. How many questions?
So we've got 70 questions for the tech and 70 questions for the master. You've got 90 seconds of time for each question. So it's about 2 hours to take the whole test.
2 hours.
And
Okay.
and then you can move back and forth in the test if you want, but the best thing would usually be just to go through one by one and pass the test, so you don't waste time running back. If you get done with the test, the time limit is still open. You can go back and you can look at it and review, but second guessing yourself isn't usually recommended because I've had people that said, hey, I changed it and I got it wrong, so
Yeah.
you
Well,
usually
that's
go with your
everything
first
that.
one.
Yeah. Usually your first guess is the best guess. If you don't know the answer, the first guess is the best guess. It's in there somewhere floating around. It's just, when you second guess yourself. Yeah. So, It's a multiple choice, so you can prepare outside of that by taking some sort of setup for multiple choice testing, some sort of strategy to strategize around it. But 90 seconds per question, so about 2 hours. Someone that has taken it multiple times now, Jeff is right. Do not skip around. I understand some people's brain works like that, but why take a chance of not going back to finish a question or going back and jumping back a section to where you have to completely flip off, because it does go in sections. Like here, it's safety procedures. You know what I mean? It's 14% of the exam. You know what I mean? So like you have, it's approximately 10 questions, that breakdown. So jump ahead to your installation knowledge and then have to jump back to safety procedures. Now you're like, so it's grouped for a reason. So my personal opinion is stay in order, go down through the test. If you don't know something, skip it and move on, and come back before you move to the next section. Go back before you move on to the next section of the test. That's a great way to look at it. But I'm going to real quick here, Jeff. I'm going to break this down as soon as my mouse decides to work. I don't know why.
Well, you're doing that. So a good idea on the pricing too. We talked about it being free. So if you just signed up for the test, the normal cost for member shops is $69 for their technicians. And if you're a non-member and you're just a tech that's outside of the organization you want to test, it's $179. But members get an additional benefit too, because every shop that joins, they get 3 free tests per year. So they can use that to test their technicians. So it's a great way to get your tech certified if you are a member. You got it's the cost is minimal.
Let's talk about that. If you're a technician and you want to become certified, you want to invest in yourself, go to your owners of your shop, or if you own the shop, and think about what Jeff just said. You get the 3 free tests if you join the organization. There's other benefits throughout the year that happen, from Auto Glass Week events to boot camp events to other live training to, litigate, to representation, to there's all kinds of, things that fall under that AGSC umbrella. But if your shop owner won't do it and you're a tech and you can invest the $179 in yourself, you become a qualified technician. You're not a certified technician, but you're a qualified technician. And what that certificate will do will tell you that you have everything you need knowledge-wise to be a certified technician. It's just you're not certified because you're not part of our umbrella. So make sure that you talk to your shop owners, or if you're a shop owner, join the AGSC and get all the benefits that come along with it.
Yeah, and that certification belongs to the technician. So if that technician ends up, say he starts out and he just gets a certification on his own, he's not working for a member company, and he ends up going to work for another member company, or his company joins, then you automatically move from qualified to certified, because the certification belongs to the tech. And when the company that you work for is a member, you go ahead and you become a certified technician.
That's important. Thank you for bringing that up, Jeff, because I did miss that. But he's absolutely right. If you're a qualified and then they join, or you leave that organization, go to another organization that is a AGSC member, you get that boost to a certified technician. You're on the list. You can go and look, and it shows that you have taken time to invest in yourself, invest in your craft, and become certified. It's well worth it. I've done it multiple times and I love it, and I'll continue to do it until I no longer am in the glass industry. So we're looking at, safety and procedures. You're going to have the safe operation of tools, safe practices when working with electrical systems, personal protective equipment, safe lifting, ergonomics, storage of equipment, potentially dangerous habits and behaviors. You're going to have your OSHA, your HAZCOM, basic first aid, and policies and procedures to ensure safety of the technician, coworkers, customers, and the general public. That's the breakdown of the approximate 10 questions in the safety procedures part of it. And not every 2 techs will get the same test. So don't think you can partner up with your friend and take it, because we have a bank of questions that each year we meet and we go through and we revamp them and rehash them and come up with, better and new ones. And But then you have the glass service, shop and mobile installations. That's would be section B, and these don't go in this order. This is just, you know, these sections could come at any time, which is like it's 77% of the exam, so approximately 54 questions will come from section B. So it's pre-inspection checklist, vehicle protection, vehicle protection procedures, proper use of tools, removal of, you know, belt buckles and jewelry, protecting the customer's reference materials, for example, like the NAGS specifications catalog, the calculator, material. Let me see. Sorry, guys, I have a hard time with things far away. MSDS sheets, the airbag reference guide, products, technical data sheets, catalog calculator. Okay, and then procedures for documentation of condition of materials related to the service. For example, lot numbers, expiration dates, temperature, humidity. This is regulation standards from the government, from the OEM, the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, from the DOT, and Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, OEM specifications pertaining to installations, difference between OEM and non-OEM products, storage procedures, and adhesives and sealants. And then it goes on, value added to glass, safety glass related materials, for example, laminated, tempered, polycarbonate, hand and power and specialty tools, vehicle body construction, body seams, drain tubes, air vents, gaskets, strip rails, glass removal techniques, non-glass parts trim. We're going to talk about that. Installation and repair technique for non-glass parts, removal techniques for non-glass parts, interior door parts, for example, regulators, linkage channels, motors, airbags, airbag disabling. Whoop. Airbag disabling, not disassembly, disabling. Windshield installation methods, door and vent glass installation methods, quarter and back glass installation methods, custom accessories, for example, sunroofs, roof visors, window tinting, antenna sensors, procedures for equipment for OEM sunroof replacement. The sunroof on the other one is the aftermarket sunroofs that we don't do anymore. Do you remember doing those?
I'm glad. Yeah, I do remember doing those.
Oh my goodness.
Cutting holes in brand new cars.
Oh my God. Yeah. So the shop I used to work at, they would order the car from the Chevy dealer up, and then it would come to our shop, and then we had to lay the pattern out, and it was like an upgrade sale. And man, cutting a hole in a car is woo. Luckily I didn't have to do that too long. Bonding surface preparation techniques, let's see, test equipment, using a digital voltage meter, an ohm meter, test for leaks, procedures and materials used, cleaning the vehicle after glass service, aftermarket paint considerations, using tape, on an aftermarket paint job, even OE paint jobs nowadays, rust and corrosion repair, repairability, value added, windshield example, heated, rain sensors, insulated, that can be ADAS now too, because that's a, related value added part. Reliability of windshield based damage characteristics, for example, acute area size and type of damage. Expected outcome of an installation and or repair, windshield repair system procedures and equipment. And then it goes on to pattern making, which is 6 questions. And yeah, that's pretty much the way it breaks down.
So what you covered there is both, both the general test and the master test. Some of those areas devote into the master test. That's a little bit more difficult. So once you pass the general test for your certification, after you have 3 years experience, and if you already had 3 years experience, you can go ahead and take the master test right away. But if you're under 3 years, you have to wait till you have 3 years. Then you go ahead and take the master. The scoring, you have to have a 70% or higher percentage rate to pass the test, which out of the 70 questions, that's 49, 50 questions you have to have correct in order to receive a passing score.
Okay, and you talked about the fact that you can study before, you got a practice test. Do you have a couple sample questions for us real quick, just to kind of give us an idea?
Yeah, let me look here. So here's an example. So what are the two types of advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS, recalibration? And the choices would be A, static or hydrophobic, static and dynamic, static and stereo, or static and sonic. So the way the questions are laid out is you have to have one answer that is definitely right and three answers that are in no way correct, because you can't have, well, that sounds a little bit correct, or there, it could be that way. You have to have a definite, one correct answer and three incorrect answers. So the correct answer on that obviously is static and dynamic.
Yes, dynamic and dynamic. Yep.
Uh, let's see what else we can come up with here. So there are some true and false. We try to keep true and false to a minimum.
Yep.
Failure to remove the cowling and windshield wipers on a vehicle with ADAS can cause the system to function improperly. True or false? And basically that's true. You know, you have to remove the cowl or you're going to get, you know,
yep,
a windshield
you're gonna
that's
have
set
some
incorrectly.
Yeah. Yep, and incorrect set affects ADAS, no matter how you look at it.
See what else I can come up with here. Gel ADAS. Okay, we've got radar is an object detection system that uses radio waves to determine blank of objects. And you have range, angle, velocity, or all of the above. And with radar, you're looking at all of the above.
All the above. Yep. So let me ask you a question. If they go in and they're getting ready to take their test and they go to the videos and then they go to the pre-test, the practice test that's on there, and they don't do so hot on the practice test, can they back out and then come back in at a later day as long as they don't start the test?
Yeah, as long as you don't start the test, the videos, all the videos together, if you watch them, takes about 2 hours to go through all the different videos.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably going to add some more videos. So it's going to be like, you know, more in-depth training. We've got some videos that have, they're in production right now that we're going to add to this. We're also working on ADAS certification, CSR certification, and we already have repair training certification. So
yeah, those are all coming down the. Yeah, they're all coming down the pipeline. We've been working on those for a few years now with getting our bank full of questions and making sure that it is, you know, exactly related to those breakdowns of our career, because we have to be technicians. So we have to be able to perform ADAS. We have to be able to perform our technician duties as far as installation, but also you can know CSR, you can know the repair, you can know, but to be a technician, a well-rounded technician, you know all of that stuff. You know, you might not know the ins and outs of CSR exactly, but you know how that system works to a point. But when it comes to repair, replacement, ADAS, know it all. So get all those certifications. I have the repair, I have the masters, and then I'm going to, as minute the ADAS is available, I'm going to take it and become ADAS certified, because I want to be a technician. You know, I consider myself a technician. I want to be a technician. So I want all these certifications under my belt. So that way when I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, what do you know? Well, here, I kind of, you know, I passed this test, you know, and I've proven it in my day-to-day operations of taking out, putting in, making sure everything's correct. I think this is something that they can definitely get into, get your head around. And like Jeff said, if you're already 3 years in and you jump into the masters, you can do that. I don't recommend it at all. That is an extremely hard test. And it, I have to study every time before it. I'm not even going to lie to you, Jeff. Like every time I take the masters, I go back through, I read Bob's book, I brush up on my standard. I'm, you know, gathering more and more information from talking to people and just kind of getting my ducks in a row. And I study every time for the masters, 100%. It's just such a hard test, and you don't know what questions you're going to get, like what group of questions you're going to get.
So I checked into it and I looked up what the success rate was overall for the past year on everybody that took the test.
Mm-hmm.
And the average was like 89% pass.
Oh, that's
so
good.
If you do study, yeah, it's real good. And back to your point, yeah, when you open up the testing and you access the videos, you can stop at any point and log back in later and watch the videos. You can go back and rewatch the videos. But once you start the test, that's when you're limited to that time frame.
Yeah, so make sure you're prepared before you start the test. I like that you told that, you can log back in and out, but once you start the test, you're committed. This is no different than any test that you've ever taken in your entire life. Once you start the test, you're committed to taking the test. You do have the 3 tries. The 89% success rate is really good. That's,
Oh yeah.
and I encourage, if you've been a certified technician for a while, I do encourage you to become master certified. We don't have enough master certified technicians nationwide. So I recommend, if you have your 3 years, to take it, but just study for it, because it's a pretty hard test. The technician test is hard too. Like, I remember the first couple times I took the technician one, it was difficult. I had to actually sit and, don't rush into it like I did. Make sure you study, because, the first time that I actually took the technician test was back in 2005. Yeah, I think it was 05. And then I took, and I got it was back then. You remember the NGA folders they used to have?
Yeah, they used to have, NGA had they had a tech, a senior, and a master at one
Yep.
time, and that was pre-AGS time, so
Yeah, yeah. So I
AGSC,
went
yeah.
on, yeah, before it was AGSC, I was in NGA certified, and I went on eBay and bought their little technician folder. It was like a 3-ring binder,
Yeah.
so I
Mhm.
could study for it. Also, do not discount your urethane manufacturer training. Take your urethane
Yeah.
manufacturer training before you try to take the test, because there are some things that are going to help you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So you can go on the AGSC website at agsc.org. You can find all the testing information. You go to the document library section. You'll find all the approved adhesive systems, uh, approved ADAS systems that have dedicated their declaration of conformance to OE standards. There are some out there. There's some urethane out there that does not have training manuals, and they are not on the list. And there's a reason
Mm-hmm.
for that, because they haven't been ISO 9001. They don't have a training manual. They don't have primers. So you got to look out for that kind of stuff. You can't just go out and buy the cheapest urethane because you're going to make more money. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work that way. You need to use a product that's going to bond properly, as an instruction list, has primers, and they all offer training too. So you get your adhesive
Mm-hmm.
system manufacturer to come out to your shop and perform the training, and that's usually for free.
Yeah,
So that's a
and
good thing. And they give you the training manual, and they hit
mm-hmm.
on pretty much a lot of the things that are covered through our testing.
Yeah, a lot of the things. That's so yeah. Make sure you're talking to urethane, and they will come out to your shop. Because with urethane trainings, in person seems to be a more robust learning for
Yep.
that, because you can ask your on-demand questions right then. You know what I mean? Like, okay, wait a second. Like, but when you're online, you just take in the information. You know what I mean? So it's good to text read and text, but when you have somebody, that's why I think the boot camps are so important, because right in that moment, if there's something you don't understand, you can ask an expert to explain it to you.
Mhm.
Where sometimes when you're taking in a text document or even watching a video, it hits you, but it's like, wait, that doesn't quite make sense. And then at the boot camps, at the schoolings, in your urethane manufacturers trainings, you can actually ask them because they're physically in front of you. So that's one thing I really like about the hands-on. As far as classroom stuff goes, obviously hands-on with installation is perfect, is awesome. But when it comes to taking these courses and sitting through the boot camps, I'm like, hey, no, Jeff, no, no, no. Why will my minimum driveway time not pass 216A, but it passes 208 and 212? Why is that? I know you said it doesn't, but why is that? And then you can be like, well, it won't pass it till it's full cure. You know what I mean? Like, you can break it down to where they
Right.
can understand it, and you can have that conversation back and forth. So I recommend, if you can take some form of in-person training, and a lot of times that is just your urethane manufacturer, because they will come to your shops, they will do the training, and it gets you at least somewhat on the path of thinking critically. For when you read these text documents, you can, you know, regurgitate it during the test, I guess is the only thing I can say there. You can spew it out on the test.
That's right.
And these tests, it'll allow you to speak to your customers in a way that they know you're a professional because you've invested your time in taking these tests. You understand terminology within the industry. You've tested your knowledge against a backboard to know that what you're talking about is actually truth. So when you're talking to a customer or a shop owner, or you're in an interview, or you're in a setting with just, peers, you can have the confidence to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you have the knowledge to do the job correctly, and you've been tested on it, and you're certified. And that's what the certification means, that you know the right way or the correct way to do it. Now, someone else might think they know the right way, but they haven't been through the testing or they haven't studied any of it, and they're just out there throwing in glass. And we've all seen it. You still got people. I'll give you a good example. I asked I asked the suppliers in my area if they had ever sold urethane to any companies and not sold primer. And they said, well, I never thought of that. Let me go check. So they came back to me and said, yeah, we've actually sold urethane to a number of companies and never sold them one bottle of primer. So, there's some guys out there that have the greatest luck of not finding a car with a scratch that's ever been done before.
Yeah.
And they can take everyone out without scuffing or scratching or having any paint release on the body of the vehicles. It's pretty amazing,
It's pretty amazing that just because you're buying a primerless 2-glass product, let's reinsert primerless 2-glass product doesn't mean you don't buy primer. You still need to have primer for, like Jeff was talking about, scratches on the body, release paint, corrections of any kind of issue that is under there, so you don't have a corrosion issue down the line. That's a good for all of our certified technicians that are watching this, or you want to be certified. Ask your distributor. Have you ever sold urethane to a company and not sold primer?
Yeah, you don't want to use that company. So.
You don't want to use that company at all. So you want to kind of stay clear of that company. All right, Jeff, I know that we've got, I wasn't going to keep you very long, so I apologize. And sometimes I go off the rails, and I apologize. So with our outro conversation here, our conversation to just kind of wrap it up, any advice you want to leave these future technicians with, go ahead and hit them with it.
Well, I would say, attend the boot camps if you can. Keep up on everything. AGR magazine's a good resource. The website, agrr.org, is accessible. Every section except the members only section is accessible. You can find a lot of great information. You can find the standard on there. All the different training that's available out there is available. So keep up on that. Glass Bites is a great internet newsletter that covers everything to do with glass. So you can find a lot of information on there. And it pays to keep up with your industry. So you want to make sure that you're up on everything and you have as much information available to you as possible. I get out in all these shops when I'm out doing audits, and a lot of people aren't even aware of AGR magazine. They're not aware of the Glass Bites. This is all great stuff for your knowledge. I mean, you've got tool suppliers. You keep up on new tools. You keep up on education. You keep up on new installs. All kinds of information out there.
Exactly. And if you're buying my expert opinion, if that's what you want to call it, is, like Jeff said, just stay involved in the industry. We need the involvement. We need everyone's opinion. We need the involvement to move the industry in the direction we want to go. And that starts with the AGSC and with the progression of the testing certification. You have the knowledge, so that way when you're in a conversation with someone, you know that you've been tested. Hit the, all the resources. That AGR magazine is so good. Abby's doing such a good job. The latest articles that came out, the latest hard print copy. Congratulations, Abby. That was great. And keep doing what you're doing, because it's working. It's getting a lot of people involved. If you want, go back and listen to the show I did with Abby that talks about the AGR magazine. Just do an internet search for Autoglass Safety Council and see all the things that we're involved in. Autoglasssafetycouncil.org, and get yourself tested and become a qualified or a certified technician, and get your shops involved. If you're not involved, get your shops involved. We have strength in numbers, and the higher the numbers, the more strength we wield. So with that,
Definitely.
I've been the Ghost Set Killer, and my
Jeff
guest,
Olive.
Jeff Olive. And I look forward to any of the boot camps I get to hit between now and then, but I'm really looking forward to you and I hanging out at Autoglass Week. It should be fun.
Oh, yeah. Looking
Should
forward
be
to
a
it.
good time. Yeah, absolutely.
That's Reno
All right.
this year. That's good. That'll be a
Reno.
good time.
Yeah, it's going to be a
Reno in
good one.
September.
It's going to be a big one. So, man. I'm running out of blades. Sharpen them so many times. Man. Who's that one guy? Sells the Glass Rebel. He's a huge distributor. The main Pro Set distributor. Drift Chris with TexasGlassTools.com. That's right. TexasGlassTools.com. That's who I need to call. He carries all the WRD stuff. These wing blade scrapers. That's right. He carries all the blades for the Glass Rebel. He carries the bat. He carries all WRD accessories. The Pro Set distributor. Man, that's who I have to call. I have to call Drift Chris. TexasGlassTools.com. That's who I need. All right, so you could just listen to Jeff's show about how to pass the Autoglass Safety Council's certification test, qualified tech test, depending on what your, what your position is with the AGSC, whether you're a member or a non-member. I just want to take a second. I'm going to have a couple interviews. I know I'm going to have one with my wife probably, and I'm going to have one with a couple other people that I know have just taken the test to try to get things kind of put together so you can get a different perspectives. The one thing I can definitely recommend, make sure you set aside time to study. Do not try to study with everything else going on. Put your phone out of the room. Make sure it's during time. So if that means getting up early, like my friend Matt Kerbo says, and win the morning before everybody's up, be selfish in the morning, then get up in the morning and do your studying then. So you can leave your phone in another room. You don't have to worry about responding to, we all have urgency in our day-to-day lives. So you're going to need that. Make sure you're watching the videos that Jeff had mentioned with the AGSC test. Also read and study Bob's book. The Standard is definitely a good one. Your urethane manufacturer, read their manual, get their training. When it's time to take the test and you're ready to take the test, make sure that you have you're hydrated. Okay. Wouldn't hurt to, invest in your nutrition a little bit, however that is, whether it's, whatever your diet is. For me, I recommend everybody start taking a little bit of creatine every day. It helps with brain function. Helps with brain fog. This is just me talking. Get one of those mushroom blends that it's got like chaga and lion's mane. That also helps a little bit. If you are ADHD and you're medicated, make sure you take your medication. If you're not, make sure you have your caffeine and everything at your disposal to make sure that you're able to sit and focus for the 2 hours. Most of the times, the testing I've been able to take in about an hour and a half. I've not taken the full 2 hours, but that's me. I rush through things, especially if I know the answer. I pick it, I go on, I don't second guess it. If there's something I don't know, I mull it over back and forth in my head, and then I figure out which one that I need to have. Make sure that when you're taking your test, all distractions are removed. You will be taking it somewhere, whether your shop or your house or somewhere, and it's on the computer, and the questions are timed, so that kind of eliminates the fact that you can look anything up, because there's just not enough time to answer the question in a timely manner to be like, to try to figure things out. I do recommend making sure that when you're taking the test, that if you 100% having trouble reading, whether you're dyslexic, you just don't read that well, you don't read that fast, I believe that there is a function to read the questions to you, but it's actually better if you have someone else in the room with you that reads the questions to you and the answers, and then you answer. There's no shame in that, none whatsoever. Just make sure they're not answering the questions for you. That's not good. That's not the case. But if you have trouble, don't let that set you back, because your knowledge is there. Okay. Your knowledge is there. You can do your job. make sure that you set yourself up for success. Okay. Not everyone's a proficient fast reader. Not everyone, some people have dyslexia, some people have ADHD, some people have autism, but don't let that hold you back. Okay. Please don't let that hold you back. There are ways around that. There are ways to make sure that your knowledge is tested. It's best to have a third person that's nowhere near involved in the industry read the questions to you. Because, we want you to pass, and we understand limitations. Now, might want to clear out the Auto Glass Safety Council. I'm just saying, for me personally, make sure you don't let something like that hold you back from getting out there and getting tested. Getting certified, not just tested, getting qualified or certified. You want that. And display it loud and proud. I have all of my patches on one of my aprons. Have it on. You can order extra patches because it comes with a few. But you can order extra ones, and every single one of my uniform shirts had it on the sleeve. I had it on my sleeve, and I have a binder that displays all of my certifications. I also, at one point, had them hanging up on the back wall, the headache rack of my van, the wall between the two. I'm not sure what it's called, but I call it a headache rack because it's a headache to try to get back through or whatever. But, I had them hanging on the back of my van at one point. But now I just keep a binder that I keep with me. So, if I ever wanted to show them off, because I do, I'm proud of what I've done and what I've accomplished. And, it definitely shows when you take the time to make sure that you're invested in it, that you've done everything you need to do, and you've invested in yourself. And I apologize that right there. I lost my train of thought, but anyways, make sure that you're ready to take the test. And a lot of people, like Jeff said, 90% of the people pass it on the first try. And if not, no shame in failing. You will know, you'll see what section that you didn't pass. It won't tell you the questions that you didn't get right or wrong, but you'll see the section that you didn't have, that you made the most mistakes in, so you can really hone in and focus on that section. And for me, I don't know why, but I always miss some safety stuff. There's not very many questions on it, and I always pass that section. But for me, where I get a couple questions wrong at is always the safety. It's I wear my PPE. I do, I study my OSHA stuff, but I always end up missing one of those questions. I don't know why, but I do. So, it's definitely, and when you can take the masters, it's worth it. And you have to retest every 3 years. I do know there's some CE, continuing education things that are going on behind the scenes that you can potentially take advantage of in the future. I'm hoping that's coming down the pike. I've kind of brought it up a few times, and hopefully that's coming, because to me, if I'm a bad test taker and I don't have to test again, but I can just stay up on watching the videos, the new training, and then take a little 5-question test at the end of it, then I'm good. I'm okay, I still you still have the knowledge that I need to keep going, kind of like, people in the nursing field or whatever. And I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep messing with my headphones. It's just, I like the way that these things feel, and I'm not sure why I do that all the time, but I do. So if it was bothersome, I apologize. Jeff gave you some sample questions. There is that practice test out there. Get online, get you some training. There are other places. There's all kinds, like Jeff said, and then I know the online stuff that the AGSC has, the IGA has some online courses. Kaizen has some courses that are in person. Get your urethane reps out there. I'll never tell you not to go to one of the schools because it's worth it. I went after being in the industry for 16 years, and I still learned stuff then, and I'd been certified for a while. So one of the courses is good to go take, whether you're new in the industry or you've been in the industry a minute. It just kind of helps you take that next step forward, that next leap forward. So please, I'm going to be jumping off here in the next couple seconds. I'm going to try to get some interviews lined up before the show releases, so that way we could, you guys can have a, understanding that it's not as intimidating as you think. Everybody, have your self-worth. My friend sells these shirts, and it's just to remind you every day to invest in yourself, establish it daily, get up, do what you need to do, be the person you need to be. And if that person is, taking time to take care of yourself, that's important. So get a hold of Anthony Johnson, AJ, you can find him through my Facebook feed. Get yourself a self-worth shirt. Hats are coming soon. He's a good dude. He hosts a event group where he gets people together and they talk, and to kind of just go through, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So invest in yourself, and have a great day, and keep being you, and I'll keep being me.